You think you know betrayal? 3 years together, ring shopping, double shifts to build a future. Then you discover your girlfriend isn't just cheating with one person, not two, but 4 different men. And here's the part that'll blow your mind. The revenge wasn't planned by him. It was orchestrated by someone else entirely. Someone who'd been watching. Someone who'd been waiting. The Reddit post got 3 million views. But what really happened? That's a story that never made it to the internet. Welcome back to Revenge Chronicles, where the real stories are always stranger than what goes viral. I'm your host, and today we're diving into a tale that started as a simple case of infidelity and evolved into something that would make Machiavelli proud. What you're about to hear began with a Reddit post about a man named Marcus who discovered his girlfriend's ultimate betrayal. But the real story? The real story involves a mastermind who'd been pulling strings for months, turning betrayal into the most elegant form of justice I've ever encountered. Marcus Chen was the kind of guy who believed in doing things right. At 28, he was an engineering supervisor at a tech startup, methodical in everything he did. When he fell for Stephanie Reeves 3 years ago, he approached the relationship the same way he approached his projects, with complete dedication and long-term planning. Their apartment in downtown Seattle was modest but comfortable. Marcus had been working double shifts for 8 months, saving every extra dollar for the engagement ring he'd already picked out. A 2-carat princess cut that cost more than his car, but Stephanie was worth it. At least, that's what he thought. What Marcus didn't know was that someone else had been watching their relationship very carefully. Someone who knew things about Stephanie that even Marcus hadn't discovered yet. Someone who was about to set in motion a chain of events that would expose not just Stephanie's betrayal, but something far more sinister. But let's start with what Marcus saw first. Those late-night phone notifications that would change everything. It started innocently enough. 2 a.m., 3 a.m., Stephanie's phone buzzing constantly. Work emergencies, she claimed. Marcus bought it at first. She was a marketing coordinator at a growing firm, and startup life meant crazy hours. But marketing emergencies at 2 in the morning, every single night? The first crack in Marcus's trust came when he noticed Stephanie's phone face down during dinner. Always face down. When someone called, she'd excuse herself to the bathroom. When he asked about her day, her stories became vague, generic. What Marcus didn't realize was that someone else had noticed these patterns too. Someone who'd been documenting them carefully, methodically, building a case. You have to understand Marcus's mindset. This wasn't some casual relationship. He'd introduced Stephanie to his family, included her in his 5-year plan, even put her name on the lease when they moved in together. In his orderly world, cheating wasn't just betrayal, it was a complete system failure. Stephanie, on the other hand, thrived on chaos. Where Marcus saw structure, she saw predictability. Where he saw commitment, she saw limitation. She was 26, beautiful, charming, and according to everyone who met her, absolutely perfect for Marcus. Everyone except one person, someone who saw through Stephanie's performance from day one. The night Marcus finally checked Stephanie's phone, he was expecting to find maybe one affair. Secret texts with a coworker, perhaps. Guilty messages with an ex. What he found was a carefully orchestrated network of deception that took his breath away. 4 separate message threads, 4 different men, 4 completely different versions of Stephanie. With Jake Morrison, Marcus's best friend since childhood, she was the neglected girlfriend seeking comfort. With David Harrison, her boss, she was the ambitious employee willing to do anything for advancement. With Kevin Park, their neighbor, she was the lonely woman trapped in a boring relationship. And with Alex Rivera, the man she'd introduced as her gay friend, she was the free spirit exploring her sexuality. But here's what Marcus missed in his shock and heartbreak: the metadata, the timestamps, the coordination. Someone with technical expertise had been tracking all of this. Someone who knew exactly when to let Marcus discover the truth. The confrontation that night seemed like the end of the story. Stephanie's cruel laughter, her admission that she was bored, her complete lack of remorse. Marcus felt like his world had ended. He packed his things and left that same night, blocking everyone involved and moving to Portland to start over. For 2 months, Marcus worked on rebuilding. Therapy sessions, a new job, a studio apartment with city views. He was healing, or so he thought. The anger was fading into resignation. He was ready to chalk this up to an expensive lesson learned. But someone else wasn't done with the story yet. What Marcus didn't know was that every one of those 4 affairs had been carefully exposed to the right people at exactly the right time. David Harrison's wife received anonymous screenshots the day after Marcus moved out. Jake Morrison's girlfriend found printed emails in her mailbox. Kevin Park's landlord discovered he'd been violating his lease by bringing women into the building late at night. And Alex Rivera's family, conservative, traditional, somehow learned about his true sexual orientation and his affair with a taken woman. The timing was too perfect to be coincidental. Someone had orchestrated the downfall of every single person who had betrayed Marcus. Someone who had been planning this from the very beginning. But here's what nobody, not Marcus, not Stephanie, not even Reddit, ever knew. The mastermind wasn't some unknown vigilante. It wasn't a private investigator Marcus had hired. It wasn't even karma working its magic. It was Emma Chen, Marcus's younger sister, the quiet computer science PhD student who'd been living in Boston for the past year, the one person everyone underestimated, the one person who'd seen through Stephanie from their very first meeting. Emma had been conducting the most sophisticated long-term surveillance operation you've ever heard of, not for revenge, for protection. She'd been building a case against Stephanie for over a year, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal everything. Emma Chen had never liked Stephanie, but it wasn't until Stephanie made a crucial mistake that Emma decided to act. At Marcus's birthday party 18 months ago, Stephanie had pulled Emma aside and made a comment that chilled her to the bone. "Your brother's sweet, but he's so predictable. Sometimes I wonder what it would be like to be with someone more exciting." That comment, combined with Emma's natural protective instincts and her technical skills, set everything in motion. She began what she called digital archaeology, carefully monitoring Stephanie's online presence, tracking her patterns, identifying inconsistencies. When the affair started, Emma was ready. She documented everything, but she didn't just want to expose Stephanie. She wanted to ensure that everyone who participated in Marcus's betrayal faced consequences. Emma's revenge was surgical. She didn't just expose the affairs, she targeted each person's specific vulnerabilities. David Harrison lost his job and his marriage in the same week. His wife took everything in the divorce, and the company fired him for inappropriate workplace conduct after Emma provided HR with a detailed timeline of his actions. Jake Morrison's relationship imploded when his girlfriend received not just evidence of the affair, but bank records showing he'd been using their joint account to pay for hotel rooms with Stephanie. Kevin Park was evicted and blacklisted from the building management company's other properties. His parents, who had co-signed his lease, refused to help him find new housing. Alex Rivera's carefully constructed double life collapsed entirely. His conservative family disowned him, not for being gay, but for lying and participating in an affair. But Emma saved the most poetic justice for Stephanie herself. By the time Stephanie realized her entire support network had vanished, she was completely alone. No job, no friends, no family willing to help after Emma anonymously provided them with evidence of how Stephanie had been mocking them behind their backs. When Stephanie finally called Marcus from that random number, begging for reconciliation, she had no idea she was actually calling the number Emma had set up specifically for that moment. The call that Marcus thought was Stephanie's desperate attempt at reconciliation was actually the final phase of Emma's plan. She had predicted, almost to the day, when Stephanie would reach out. She'd been monitoring Stephanie's digital footprint, watching her become increasingly isolated and desperate. When Marcus told Emma about the call, describing how good it felt to finally laugh and hang up on Stephanie, Emma made a decision that surprised even herself. She told him everything: the surveillance, the documentation, the carefully orchestrated consequences for each of the men involved. She showed Marcus terabytes of evidence she'd collected, explained the technical methods she'd used, revealed how she'd anticipated and manipulated each person's reactions. Marcus's reaction wasn't what you might expect. He wasn't angry about the invasion of privacy or the manipulation. He was amazed. His quiet, academic sister had constructed and executed the most sophisticated revenge plot he'd ever heard of, all to protect him from people who saw him as weak and naive. 6 months later, Marcus moved back to Seattle, not to the same apartment, but to a penthouse in a better neighborhood, paid for with the settlement money from a lawsuit Emma helped him file against David Harrison's company for hostile work environment violations. Stephanie tried to reconnect on social media multiple times, but Emma's digital barriers made that impossible. Every account Stephanie created was flagged and blocked within hours. Every attempt to contact Marcus through mutual friends was anticipated and prevented. The four men never learned about Emma's role in their downfall. They each believed their consequences were the result of bad luck and poor timing. Only Marcus knew the truth about his sister's year-long campaign of protective justice. The Reddit post that went viral told the story of a man who discovered his girlfriend's betrayal and walked away with dignity. But the real story was about something much more powerful: the lengths family will go to protect each other, and the fact that sometimes the quietest person in the room is the most dangerous. Emma never considered what she did to be revenge. In her mind, she was simply correcting a system error. Stephanie and her accomplices had treated Marcus as if he were weak and gullible. Emma proved that underestimating the Chen family was the biggest mistake they could make. What would you have done? If you discovered someone you loved was being systematically betrayed and mocked, would you have the patience to spend a year documenting evidence and planning the perfect response? Or would you have just told them to check their partner's phone? Let me know in the comments. And remember, the people who love you might be protecting you in ways you never imagined. Until next time, this has been Revenge Chronicles, where the real story is always more complex than what makes it to the front page.